Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited that you are here today, that you're prioritizing your professional development, and that you're going to hear from some very impressive women leaders in business who have all found their fit in corporate finance. So we have a lot to talk about today, and I know that there are folks that are still joining. So for those that are joining right now, welcome. But I know that we're going to have a very deep and wonderful conversation, so I want to make sure we have time for that. So with all that being said, I'm going to kind of kick things off, and I'll start by introducing myself. So for those of you who I haven't had a chance to meet before, my name is Libby Davis. I am a program manager here at Forté, and I work specifically with our MBA students. So if you are enrolled in an MBA program, hopefully you've seen emails from myself and the rest of my team. If not, welcome, and I'm excited to have this conversation today. And I know that we have a lot of different virtual programming that takes place at Forté. And this particular series that we are a part of today is called the Conquer Your Career Virtual Series. And it's really meant to offer an inside look at what it's like to be a woman with an MBA working in a variety of different fields. And as you all know, we're talking about corporate finance today. So with that, I am very excited for the conversation because corporate finance careers are really exciting and can offer intellectually challenging work that has a large impact on how an organization operates and grows in both the short and the long term. So we have four amazing panelists today, and they have really found their fit in this area of business, and they have really done amazing work in their respective fields. And so they'll discuss the different knowledge, skills, and abilities that can help launch someone into this career path, and kind of share their perspectives along the way. So let's get started. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Leanne Hall. Leanne is a mergers and acquisitions advisor for low carbon solutions at ExxonMobil, and she comes to us with an MBA from the University of Texas at Austin McCombs School of Business. So Leanne, welcome. We're so thrilled that you are here, and we'd love to learn a little bit more about your career journey.
Awesome. Thanks, Libby. I'm really excited to be here today on the panel. My name's Leanne Hall. I started my career in 2007 or 2011. I graduated from the Washington University in St. Louis, and I have a master's in accounting and a bachelor's in business from there. And then after I left WashU, I worked in public accounting for about 3.5 years in London for Deloitte. So I started my career in consulting, specifically in US tax, for hedge funds and private equity funds in Europe. It was a great experience. I got a lot of great learnings and development when I was there, and I felt like I really wanted to go and work for a big corporation and support a business and own, the P&L and really help drive an actual operation. So that's when I made the decision to go get my MBA from UT in Austin, and I majored in corporate finance because I thought it was a great complement to my accounting background. And I was a Forte fellow. I actually, got introduced to Forte the summer before I started my MBA as well. So that was really exciting for me. And then I interned at ExxonMobil during my MBA program and came back full time. And I've been with ExxonMobil for about 7.5 years. And I've had a variety of roles in our upstream business. And I'm currently in our low carbon solutions business. I've been in this role for about 6 months. And low carbon solutions is our newest business unit. It's a really exciting place. And I'm a mergers and acquisitions advisor. So kind of a whole new area of corporate finance for me that I'm really excited to be a part of, to help drive this new business for us. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to share some of my experiences today.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm very excited to hear about them too, especially living in London and what that was like. That sounds really exciting. All right, so next up, I am very excited to introduce you to Mona Abelgar. She is a vice president of corporate FP&A at McKesson, and she comes to us from the University of Notre Dame Mendoza School of Business, having graduated in 2015. So Mona, welcome. We're so thrilled you're here. Could you tell us more about your career journey?
Yeah, thanks, Libby. I'm very excited to be here also. Similar to Leanne, I received my undergraduate degree in accounting from the University of South Florida. Coming out of that, I went to go work in corporate accounting and finance for about 6 years. I worked for a fuel logistics company in Florida. It was kind of like a middleman of fuel, and no one knew what it was. Kind of similar to my current company, even though it is a large company. And it was a really great experience. Learned a ton there, and I was actually starting to pursue my CPA. Towards the end of my career there, and as I was studying for that, decided, this isn't really what I want to do. I wanted to probably go a different path in accounting. And I started thinking about going to get my MBA. Talked to different people there just to get different perspectives about how I could use that, et cetera. Actually got some feedback that, maybe I don't really need my MBA and it's not necessarily the best path forward. And some people even advised against it. But I just felt like it was an important step for me and decided to pursue that. So I ended up quitting my job and going full time into the MBA program at Notre Dame. And it was a great decision for me. Um, really enjoyed the full time program that they had there, learned a lot, and met some of my closest friends through that program and had a lot of great experiences. And through that time, I decided, I really want to get into healthcare and be in finance. And I came across McKesson's finance leadership program, which is a 2-year program that allowed you to do 4 6-month rotations in different parts of finance and different business units. So I went into that program full time post MBA. And after my 2 years in that program, I went into pricing for a business unit at McKesson and spent 5 years there. Had a lot of great experiences, had never done pricing before working at McKesson, aside from a business unit course where we did a simulation. And that was very different than the real life practice of it. And so it was a great experience. And 2 years ago, I moved into my role as VP of Corporate FP&A, which is Financial Planning and Analysis. And I've been helping to lead consolidations for all of our different business units and turning that into materials where we can relay our results to the investor community by partnering with our investor relations team. So overall, it was a great decision to go back for my MBA, and very excited to be here today and share the rest with you all.
Thank you, Mona. We're excited to hear it too. Okay, so next up, I'm excited to welcome Yadi Leone. Yadi is a senior financial manager for net sales Southeast region at Frito-Lay PepsiCo. And she comes to us with an MBA from the University of Indiana, Bloomington, Kelley School of Business. So Yadi, welcome. We are excited to learn more about you.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Yadi. As mentioned, I work for PepsiCo. But before I got here to where I'm currently at, actually went and got my undergrad at Marquette University and majored in finance and international business. And right out of college, I went into a rotational program at a PNC bank. So I was in retail banking for several years. Before I decided to get my MBA. My experience in banking was really a lot of sales, customer service, account management, really great foundational postgraduate experience right out of college. But it wasn't what I thought I'd be doing with a finance degree, even though I'd moved into different roles. And so in talking with peers and networking with some sponsors, really found that an MBA was the best career choice for me at the time to pivot into something more related to corporate finance. And so that's where I am now. I went and got my MBA at Indiana University, interned with PepsiCo during my summer of my MBA program. And now I'm here. I've been here with PepsiCo for about 5 years. I currently am net sales manager for Frito-Lay as part of the PepsiCo business. In my current role, I work with sales partners and to forecast, plan, develop calendars, customer agreements. And before that, I worked in two previous roles with Frito, working on our commercial FP&A team and our food service business. So in this current role within PepsiCo, I really do feel like now I'm getting the corporate finance experience I thought I'd be working in originally. And now that I made the choice to, get my MBA, pivot, and find what I truly wanted to do, I'm very happy with that choice to get my MBA. And through this process, I really learned that, networking, talking with individuals, and really finding out what people do is the key to figuring out what will make you happy. So I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to the rest of the panel.
We're happy that you're here too, Yadi. Thank you so much. And then last but certainly not least, I'm pleased to introduce Louise Wiedemann. Louise is a Finance 1 leader at Dow, and she comes to us with an MBA from Central Michigan University. So Louise, we're going to turn the conversation over to you and can't wait to hear more about you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here as well and to share my insights and experience with all of you. So I have been with Dow for a little over 10 years. I've spent my entire career here. And if you're not familiar, Dow is a Fortune 100 material science company. We're based out of Midland, Michigan, which is in the middle of the state up here. I earned my bachelor's degree in accounting at the end of 2013 from Western Michigan University. And if you're from the Midwest, you might know that Western and Central are very big rivals. So I definitely hold my honor with my undergraduate degree there. I'm a Bronco by heart. So I actually made the decision to start working on, or the plan to start working on my MBA before I landed a job. And then I came on my last semester of undergrad, and Dow was at our career fair, and I was able to secure an entry-level position into their finance rotational program. So I then joined them immediately upon graduation, but also began classes for my MBA immediately upon graduation. So a little bit different than the other ladies on the panel here. So I took a little bit longer to complete my MBA, as I did it while working full-time in my first 3 years of my career. So I in turn earned that. And then I spent the first 7 years of my career within Dow's finance rotational program, doing a couple different accounting roles and one more finance role. And then about 3.5 years ago, I exited our rotational program and joined this role on our finance staffing team, actually. And I think earning my MBA really opened the doors to consider other alternatives to kind of a classic finance or accounting career. So I still sit within our finance organization, but definitely handle a little bit more HR type items on my desk. So I manage our early career recruiting and development for finance in North America. So kind of ownership and oversight to our internship program for finance, as well as that rotational program that I myself was a part of. And then the other half of my role is kind of global learning, development, and engagement for the entire finance organization. So that's a little bit about myself, and looking forward to the rest of this conversation.
Thanks, Louise. It's going to be a great conversation. I'm very excited. And so now that you've had a chance to meet everybody and you know all about their exciting backgrounds, we're going to dive a little bit deeper and actually start with some of our more specific panel questions. So the first question I'm going to ask is actually going to be for Yadi. So Yadi, would you describe corporate finance, how would you describe corporate finance to someone who has never worked in the field?
Yeah, of course. So corporate finance, what it means is like being a strategic partner across an organization to achieve goals for the business within financial confines. So that could be a bunch of different things for different organizations. So it could be, how do you fund capital projects? How do you minimize costs? How do you achieve goals for growth? And so, like I mentioned, it could look different for different organizations, and it may also look different for different functions within finance. So for example, if you work in sales finance like I do, you may be working, partnering with sales teams to help optimize store promotions, so pricing within your customers, navigating customer contracts, and accelerating sales growth. And if you work for, say, example, like asset strategy within corporate finance, you might be working on how to fund capital projects, like opening a new plant, upgrading an existing line, stuff like that. So it may look different within different organizations, different industries, but really you're working to extract insights from your financial findings and crafting a story to help make better financially sound business decisions. So I hope that kind of helps and puts it in layman's terms.
Yes, no, that is very, very helpful. And I think that that sets the tone really well for the rest of the conversation, because we'll really be diving into a lot of different specific experiences that everyone has on the panel. So that'd be great. So the next question I have is for Louise. So Louise, how did you determine the type of finance work that would be most interesting to you? And then what other career tracks did you consider?
Yeah, so this is a great question for me. I actually kicked off my undergraduate degree with the intention to become a nurse. So definitely changed tracks very quickly when I realized I needed more numbers in my life. So only got through about a semester there and switched to accounting, mostly with, the plan in mind that accounting is a sensible degree. I could find a job anywhere, and keep that kind of numbers passion close to me. So then upon kind of reaching the end of my undergrad degree, I realized that public accounting was not going to be for me. And at the time, universities very much partner with those big four firms. And that's kind of really strongly encouraged for you to consider as you're finishing up your degree. And I thought, oh man, I've made a big mistake. This isn't the right degree for me. This isn't the right lifestyle for me. And then I came across, learning more about corporate finance, corporate accounting roles. And that's where I kind of met Dow at that career fair. So, again, at that point, I wasn't entirely sure what space of accounting or finance was going to be the best fit for me. So I was extremely interested in the fact that Dow offered kind of an early career finance rotational development program, similar to what a lot of companies do in that space here. So that gave me the chance to try a couple different spaces, find out what I loved, find out what I didn't, and then just kind of took a little bit of ownership over that first part of my early career to get more experience, diverse experience, and then lean on those passions there.
I love that you talk about like listening to yourself too, where you're like, oh, this isn't an exact fit. So I'm glad that you did. And it sounds like the rotational program was really impactful. So that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
So next question will be for Leanne. So Leanne, what is a typical day like for you? And how does your work have an impact at your organization?
Oh, thanks, Libby. That's a great question. I've had a lot of roles at Exxon prior to my current one that have been kind of typical corporate finance roles where you have, financial planning cycles, kind of a process that you go through every, financial period, and you can kind of go through the motions, as some say, like, during each cycle. But I think this role that I'm in as a mergers and acquisitions advisor for a new business is probably the most strategic role I've been in. And I don't know if I have an exact day that happens every day. A lot of it's just kind of dealing with things that kind of come up as we go. But it's an exciting space to be in. As I mentioned, I'm in low carbon solutions. So for ExxonMobil, it's a business we started up 3 years ago to kind of help accelerate the world's path to net zero. And so we're looking for technologies and products to offer the market, not only to reduce our own emissions, but to help large companies and other commercial emitters to reduce their own emissions. So it's exciting. It's a nascent market. A lot of things change. You have to learn how to be dynamic and deal with changes in policy. There's a lot of interaction with the government. But it's really cool because I think I have to have a strong understanding of what our business strategy is so that I know what kind of projects to bring forward to my business lines to say, hey, this looks like a good opportunity for us. Like, let's take a look at it. So you don't only just have to understand the financials, but it's also like really understanding that strategy and how you can identify synergies with other opportunities out there with our own businesses. So it can kind of be difficult sometimes to value, especially when the business that you're working in may be changing constantly. But I really love it. There's parts of my role where it's managing relationships with banks, working with investment banking contacts, as well as our internal businesses. And, that kind of dynamic communication, it's really exciting and a cool place to be because people will come to you and ask for your opinion on things. So you can kind of get put on the spot a lot. It's a cool place to be. And just kind of having a view of the market, really having to kind of, you know, find your voice and have an opinion on things. That's what I really find exciting about this space. So in-house M&A is definitely like a cool area. I know a lot of people interested in finance. They want to go into iBanking, but having an internal role within a big corporation to help direct capital funds and propose ideas to your leadership and the decision makers. It's really a unique space, and then you kind of have to live with the decisions that you make and the businesses that you buy or invest in. So it's something that I went into my MBA intentionally wanting. So the fact that I'm in this role today is really cool spot to be in, especially with our new business that we're trying to develop and have a real impact on the world.
It definitely sounds like an exciting place to be, and that you are able to really shine as a subject matter expert. So I'm excited about this, and I can't wait to hear more. That's going to be great. Next question is for Mona. Mona, what skills do you need to be a successful leader in corporate finance? And to what extent has your leadership style evolved as you've taken on different roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, I think going into finance, there's the general foundational finance skills that are critical, right? You have to have that technical knowledge, but I think it's the soft skills also, relationship management, having that intellectual curiosity, really investing in some of those soft skills that allow you to be even more successful, because then you say, hey, I have that technical, right? But it's how do you use that technical? How do you take the data? How do you take that information and really turn that into, information and things that people can actually make decisions on? And I think, being a leader where it's having that integrity is really important too, to be able to lead your team, especially as there are changes in the organization, or as your business shifts, right? That becomes really important. And I'd say leadership style has absolutely evolved and changed with every role that I've taken. I've held a variety of roles at McKesson, and I think with each one I've had to use a different set of skills, and I've been challenged a different way. And so that's, forced me to be really adaptable and to say, okay, here's a different set of audience. I would have to change my presentation style this time, or this leader really likes information being presented in a certain manner, so I have to do that here, but for this other leader, I have to do it a different way. So really being able to adapt is important, because that also shows that you're flexible, you can be dynamic, and really just evolve. And it keeps challenging you also to try different things. If something doesn't work, find out what works, ask questions. And I think asking questions is a really important part of your development, and really what enables you to be successful. Because if you're not asking even some of the difficult questions, or the ones that no one wants to ask, you don't always get to those right answers, and can save you a lot of time if you do that. So I think just being able to raise your hand sometimes becomes really important.
I appreciate that you also talk about knowing, you speak a lot about knowing your audience, and I think that's a really important thing to mention, both as you're considering an MBA and in life after an MBA too. So I think that's great. Next question I'm going to give to Louise. So Louise, are there any finance certifications that are kind of outside of the realm of an MBA that could be beneficial for someone who's wanting to break into a finance career, or that they may want to consider as they look at a long-term finance career as well?
Yeah, great question for me, since I'm very actively involved in our recruiting space for early career finance and accounting here. And actually, I find myself at a recruiting event at a local university today, just following this panel discussion. So, you're probably familiar with, a CPA, certified public accountant. There's also a couple other certifications that I often see. So there's a CFA, certified financial advisor. There's a CMA, certified management accountant, and a CIA, certified internal auditor. So it really depends on, what you're looking for in your long-term career, if you want to consider any of those 4 or other certifications. In my personal opinion, I think no matter what additional education or certification you have, whether that's an MBA, a master's degree, and or some of these certifications, it demonstrates that you're an ambitious learner. I personally love to see a resume of, if it's a finance major, that they went on and then got the CPA to diversify themselves, or vice versa. If they're an accounting major, then they went on to earn one of the non-accounting, the CFA maybe there to kind of diversify themselves. And, that really depends though on you and what you want out of your career. Here at Dow, if you're looking for, a long-term finance career, you're going to want any kind of certification or additional education that'll benefit you. But if you want to be an auditor, and perhaps work for Big Four, then maybe that CIA is the most important thing for you. So, reading up on those and the differences between them, and then understanding how that might make you more marketable is critical. But I think personally, any additional certification is just proving that, you're eager, ready to learn, and ambitious.
Louise, that's very helpful. Very, very helpful. Our next question we will give to Mona. So Mona, what are some unique opportunities that come from a career in corporate finance? And also, what are some of the challenges? How might these challenges be overcome, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think one of the really unique aspects is being able to have an impact on decision making, especially at a large organization. That was something that was always really important to me, is, I wanted to have a seat at the table and help influence decisions. And I've been really lucky to work for a company that's having a great, impact on the community, and feeling like I'm, helping with that, not just working in a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint. And so I think that's one of the unique things where corporate finance enables you to really bridge that sometimes, where you can do meaningful work and have an impact, not just feel like you're working in a spreadsheet. I think some of the challenges sometimes, especially as you're starting off, early in your career, is, sometimes you might know what you're talking about. You might be a subject matter expert, and people might not take you serious at first. And so it's, how do you build that credibility? And I know we'll come to that a little bit later maybe, but, how do you really showcase that, you know what you're talking about? And I think part of that just comes with, showing that you have the technical and really building that skill set to say, here's the data I have, here's why this is important, here's why you should listen to me. And part of that just comes over time. But, I think also I've been lucky, McKesson's been a big supporter of women in finance. And I think sometimes not all organizations are like that. And so I think that's something too that, if you are in that situation, that can be a challenge. And so, finding your advocates and really finding your voice will help you continue to develop.
I think it's a great point that you talk about the other people that can help make sure that your voice is amplified in those spaces. So thank you, Mona. That's very helpful. So we've talked a lot about kind of what it's like to be in corporate finance, day in the life. what it's like to be a leader in finance. So now let's talk a little bit more about kind of finance within the context of an MBA program. So I'm going to send the next question over to Yadi. Yadi, could you describe the recruitment process in corporate finance roles, specifically within the MBA space? What strategies or tactics did you use to prepare for your MBA level interviews? And then what recommendations do you have for folks who want to stand out from the crowd during the recruitment process? I know that was 3 questions. So if you need me to repeat them, let me know, but love to turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, it's good. So all in all, so like talking about the MBA recruitment process for corporate finance and then like strategies in interviewing and standing out. So when I think about it, I think it comes down to a few things, at least it did for myself, and it was researching, networking, and selling. And so what that means in researching, and I know we have different audience members, whether they're prospective MBA students or currently in their MBA program, first year, second year. So researching was really finding out what kind of organization, like you may be having the decision of like, what do you do with an MBA, finance, marketing, supply chain, etc. But also like, what kind of organization would you like to work for? What kind of industry do you want to be a part of? I'm in the consumer packaged goods. I used to be in financial services. And so that was one thing that I knew coming in, why I needed to pivot, or why I wanted to pivot, why I needed an MBA to do so, was completely changing the organization that I would be part of. And so that can be done by, talking to your peers, talking to your MBA peers or other prospective students and asking them what they currently do now, reaching out to alums from your targeted schools or your current school on LinkedIn. And I know, that might seem kind of daunting to reach out to individuals, but you'll be more than surprised by the individuals that will reply back to you and happy to help you out in pursuing, your goals and helping out with like a 20-minute interview, informational interview, which, brings me to the networking part. That's one of the biggest advantages of being in an MBA program is the network around you within the confines of your school, outside of also like the alums that have gone there. And also, if you have a targeted organization that you definitely want to be a part of, you've done some of the research and looking into what they do, what kind of roles you want to pursue, reaching out for informational interviews that way as well. Just to kind of help you with setting yourself apart is having that knowledge prior before you even, interact with anyone who's part of the recruiting team. And then, so I talked research, networking, and then now selling. So selling and standing out, you really, one way I think, and I think I saw this in the chat, is how do you talk to organizations when you don't have that past experience? It's really talking about your transferable skills and your leadership. And so a lot of people go in to get their MBAs to either further their role or further enhance their role or position within the organization, and some go to pivot and to change something. So they don't have past experience. So talking about your prior experience and more specifically your accomplishments. So what did you accomplish while you were in these roles all this time within your organization? How were you the key stakeholder, or how did you lead a group or an entire organization to make the decisions? And so those are some of the things that you want to keep in mind as you go into the recruiting process. I think some strategies on interviewing, I would take the approach of, prepare for behavioral interviews, but also case interviews. And I know when I was in my MBA program, a lot of the case interview type questions were more for like the people who want to go into consulting. But when you go into corporate finance, you're kind of like an internal consultant strategizing within the organization. So behavioral questions for anyone who doesn't know will be, tell me about a time when you had to work around a tight deadline, or a time you led a group of peers. And then the case interviews will really be will help you with the framework and mapping out your responses for a business scenario type question. So those are the things I would keep in mind. And I would really make sure that you don't shy away from going into an interview or an informational interview with confidence, and making sure that you do speak up and stand out about what you can bring to an organization. Excuse me.
I love all of that. I love everything that you just said. Thank you, Yadi. So as we're kind of still thinking about life in the MBA and life in the MBA wanting to go into corporate finance, I'm going to send the next question to Leanne. So Leanne, what can I do in my MBA program to really prepare me for success in a career in corporate finance? How could the attendees here today leverage their business school experience to break into these roles?
Oh, thanks, Libby. That's a great question. I think there's a few things, that you can do while you're, utilizing your time during the MBA program. The first is, of course, to focus on your finance classes. Take the kind of basic finance accounting class, and then usually there's a valuation, more advanced finance class offered. I think having a understanding of, base understanding of financial analysis and valuation is just key to having a good foundation, and then getting comfortable with financial data. So that's the first thing. I think the second is to kind of start to develop an understanding of markets and economics and just what's going on in the world. Read the news and start staying abreast of what's going on in the world, because in the finance world, even if it's not directly impacting your company, it can impact the markets that you're operating in. And there will be a time, when you're working on a project and you need to have a good understanding and just have that, I guess, urge to stay abreast of what's going on and start to develop those natural tendencies to kind of want to know what's happening across your industry and in the world, today. And then the third thing, and I think some of the other ladies hit on earlier, is just kind of, communication is really important in finance, like being able to communicate results, but also your own ideas. You can work in a spreadsheet all you want and have all these, great analysis done, but if you can't explain yourself to leadership and to other people, it's not really going to be effective, right? And so the best people that I've worked with in my career who have had successful, leadership positions and have gone on to do great things, they just have a really great way of presenting and communicating information. So in MBA, you're going to get a lot of that opportunities in your classes, but seek out other opportunities like case competitions are a really great way to do that, especially finance ones. You can get the whole gambit of looking at a project from inception and then presenting your ideas. I always found that was a really great way to get uncomfortable, and that's how you develop and expand your own skills. So yeah, those are a few ideas.
Those are some great ideas. I like your comment on getting a little bit uncomfortable to grow. I think that's a good
Exactly.
thing to keep in mind for sure. So I know we're getting close. It's wild that we are almost to the end of our time together. So I might have the last official question go to Yadi and Mona, and we'll start with Mona. So Mona, could you think back to your first role after business school? How did you establish trust with key stakeholders? And then what actions did you take to ensure that you went into new projects with confidence?
So my first role post business school, I was in the rotational program at McKesson, and I had to do 4 6-month rotations. So my very first rotation, I had to fly to one of our offices and start working day one on a divestiture. I had no idea what I was doing, and was still learning about the company, had to learn about the business unit. So I had to figure out how can I have an impact very quickly. And I started talking to as many different people as I could to understand what people were doing, where their challenges were, what was my manager's expectation of what I was supposed to be doing just within my 6-month time frame. And, where could I start having the most impact? And so I built out my initial plan, and of course, nothing ever goes official, according to plans. But it was really just understanding, where might there be small wins, so that way I could build relationships with all of the different stakeholders, and that would gradually build, their trust in me. And understanding where I could support them really helped to ensure that we were building that trust together, and success became shared by the end of that project. And so being able to see something through to the end was really nice also, because it showed that, I figured out what I needed to do and how to execute on that. And the communication, as Leanne mentioned, it's really important. having that constant communication, that constant dialogue was a great way to help build that trust and credibility.
I agree 100%. I think that's a really great way to think about it too. So Yadi, I will toss the same question over to you for you to close us out with our official panel questions.
Sure. And I love what Mona mentioned. I'll just add a few things. When I first started, I really took advantage of being new. So I made sure to ask all my questions, all my clarifying questions to make sure I understood. And again, going back to setting up you're always going to be setting up informational interviews, even outside of your MBA programs, once you're working within the organization that you wanted to. And that really is to open a line of communication to establish relationships with your stakeholders. I can't say this enough. Establishing the relationship early on, introducing yourself, making sure that they know that you are the new point person for whatever their needs are, so that the conversation goes back and forth. And then again, we've said this a bunch throughout the whole panel, but being an effective communicator, being a corporate finance professional really is about being a storyteller and being able to boil down all of your financial findings into simple jargon, and being able to communicate that. And that really does take with practice. So with practice. So I really just ask everyone, be patient with yourself in building those skills.
I like that. Give yourself some grace. Thank you, Yadi. I think that is a perfect way to end our official questions. And I know we have just a little bit of time left, so I'm hoping to get through two of the questions from the audience. So the first question that I think is really great, because we talked a lot about paying attention to things that are going on in the world. Leanne, you mentioned that quite a bit in one of your answers on the panel. So someone is wondering, what are some important resources that you do use to stay updated about the trends of finance today? So I don't know if anyone wants to take that. Leanne, it looks like you are ready to go.
I can give my thoughts and then maybe some others can jump in. One thing I did during my MBA that I've kept is I signed up for, you get, like, as a student, you can get free subscriptions to the Wall Street Journal to get, daily highlights. And, just kind of training yourself to find other, not just Wall Street Journal, but other resources that you trust to read, headline articles, and just kind of get used to every morning you wake up and you're like, what's going on in the world today, or what's the markets doing? Just start to get comfortable with financial literacy a little bit. And then there's also other books that you can read or start to kind of get familiar with. So a couple that I'll throw out there, Aswath Motaran is a really well-known finance professor at NYU. And he does a blog that he'll send out, articles. So things like that, during your time at MBA, maybe you'll come into contact with professors that you like or trust, and they'll have publications, and just staying in contact with your classmates and talking about different things going on. A lot of the time, I was, of course, focused on the energy industry, but I would, to stay abreast on what's going on in other industries, I'd, talk to my classmates. And I know other folks talked about the power of your network and working with others in your MBA program, and that should continue on after you leave school. So just a few thoughts there.
I think that's great, and actually a fantastic transition into the next question I wanted to ask, because Leanne, you talked about being very interested in the energy sector, but this question is for everyone. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you decided which industry that you were most interested in finding a job in? So I don't know if anyone wants to take that and run with it, but that would be great to learn a little bit more about that.
I can go. For me, I was interested in finding a company that was having an impact. Healthcare was really important to me for a variety of reasons. And so I felt more of a personal connection to that. That was something that I really wanted to pursue. And so that really limited my scope of companies that I was pursuing during the MBA program. And that was ultimately why I chose my path.
That's great. It sounds like you had a really clear idea of what the end goal would be.
Took a little bit to get there, though.
Yes. What would you say for folks that are trying to decide which industry might be most interesting. Were there any tips or tricks that you used as you were kind of narrowing down that list from everything to healthcare?
Yeah, I think just research, just reading about different companies. I think there's a lot of people that go into their MBA program saying, hey, I only want to work for, Google or Amazon, right? And they'll just list those because those are large companies, but you don't really know what it's like to work for them. And so talking to different people who work there, doing research on what the culture is like, et cetera, because culture has a really big impact on, your overall happiness and well-being at the company. So I think that's a big thing in terms of trying to find the right fit, is starting that research, to help you understand that.
I think that's a great way to end things. And I know I'm looking at the time and I'm like, how did 45 minutes already pass? But the time has flown because we've had such a great conversation. So I just want to thank Leanne, Yadi, Louise, and Mona for all of their insights and help today. I know that I learned a lot about corporate finance, and I hope that everyone that was joining us here today did as well. So really briefly, before we say goodbye, I just wanted to thank all of our audience members for being here today and taking time out of their schedule to learn more about this really exciting field. We do have quite a few different Conquer Your Career webinars that take place throughout the semester. So we hope that you will come and join us for another one, and learn a little bit more about your many opportunities as a woman leader in business. So with that, everybody, I just want to say thank you again. It was such a great conversation, and we hope to see you real soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.